that way.
Great, thank you. Yes, now I heard what I want to hear, so I'm thrilled. I think we're going to wait for a couple more minutes. People are, running a business is always an adventure, so can't always make it on time to every single online event. But we're recording this, and we're going to turn this into a resource that will be also available on Forge and Guild website for a period of time. And when we put this project together, including this workshop, one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that this event is actually truly useful for businesses around, and especially focusing on small businesses because there's nothing like small business operations. So yeah, it's we want this to be useful for everybody. Um, a really quick run through. So just also, again, a few more minutes for a few more people to join. The way we'll just go to go through, a few things that Ralph has to contribute. And if you have any questions, just ask them at any time. There should be a Q&A panel, and also in the chat, I'll be seeing those questions and I'll be bringing them up, and Ralph can just go through all of his material, and we'll bring questions. I'll add things. I'll probably ask questions as well because there's always something to learn. So I think let's get the ball rolling.
Sure, I'll just see if I can share my screen.
Yeah,
I
it
think
should
first I might
be.
have to start this thing. Here we go. Okie dokie. Just share. All right, you tell me if you can see that, Gidry.
Yep, yep, can see
Yeah,
that. Yeah, that's great.
amazing, amazing. Okay, ready to go. Well, welcome everybody. My name's Ralph. My business is Disrupt, and yes, it's misspelt. We've taken out the vowels, but what I want to do is just briefly touch on who we are, what our team is, and then just briefly go through some stuff this morning. And as Gidry said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to stop me if needed, and we can go through it. And I'm more than happy to stay a little bit longer if we need to have any other Q&As yeah, afterwards. So, as a business, we're certified, verified, and trusted by Google as one of their Street View partners. Street View, for those who may not be aware, the car that sort of zips around on Google. We do an upgrade from that called Business View. So that's our accreditation along with optimization of Google business profiles. SEMrush is a very recent one. We became a recognized partner with them. They're the biggest SEO company in the world, as well as Meta and Shopify. Recently, we won these awards. So we were a finalist in the iAwards, which was very exciting. And we also won the top 100 companies in the world for our AI and data analytics solution. So some pretty exciting times of recent, that's for sure. Where are we based? Well, head office is Adelaide, from a technical point of view, but we're all down the eastern seaboard as well as over in the Middle East. My business partner runs the operations over there, where we started in Kuwait, but now we're across the whole region, really, in the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa. That happened about 4 years ago. So we've been around for about 10 years, but 4 years ago we expanded into the Middle East as well. Our team, this is Team Kuwait, where a majority of our team sits, but we have obviously a small contingent here in Australia too, and we've got people spread out right across Australia. So that's only the team that sits in Adelaide, the one that's in that photo, and we've got another two people starting with us soon. But that's a little bit about us. Now, in relation to today, I don't want to go through all of this, but certainly just give you an understanding of how we can help businesses and how businesses can get a bit of a head start, and cheat their way up in regards to ranking, especially on Google. So this is a tree that we normally go through with our clients, kind of explaining after branding, after you've got branding done, how important each one of these steps are to ensure that you're being visible and building that trust and credibility with your clients or potential clients out there. So we call this our digital online tree. But what I want to touch on today in brief is kind of especially number one, explaining that Google optimization, trying to get you guys at least visible for people. I think this is more regional, isn't it, Gidri? So, touching on, making sure that you're picking up people as they're passing through potentially or wanting a destination to travel to. You want them to be able to pick your business, right? And then we'll touch slightly on social media and web development and stuff like that as well, just so that you guys kind of understand the importance of what all of this kind of means in the grand scheme of things. So we'll start with Google. This is an example of a Google business profile. So what I like to explain is you see these little tabs that are sitting there, overview, reviews, photos, by owner. You'll see as it's walking through this that you can actually have, depending on what type of business, if you're a cafe or something in hospitality, it tends to be six of these little tabs. If it's anything else, you should have seven. And quite often, when people are looking at their phones and on their own business, they'll see that they have only a limited number, sometimes three, sometimes four. It means that you're not optimized and you haven't put enough information into your Google business profile to be able to showcase the business and what it offers, and then have your business being chosen over your competitors, basically. So things like this here, where we're looking at the moment, are services that that business provides, but they also become keywords or SEO, search engine optimization. I don't want to confuse people with too many big words, but SEO and engine optimization just basically means having um, keywords that help highlight your business amongst your competitors. You can see here, this is in the product section. Now, if you don't sell a product, you can even list your services as a product, and that's also important to have highlighted on your Google preference page. The most important things for people to know is that 88% of people's journey on a daily basis starts at Google. So if you're not optimizing and making sure that your Google business profile is up to date and accurate, you're missing out on a very large chunk of people's businesses, or your business being highlighted to your potential clients. So even here, you can see that it links people to your social media platforms, etc. as well. So, um, yeah, that's kind of your Google business profile. I will highlight other things within the profile shortly, but for the moment, I just wanted to make people aware that you can look at these little tabs, and if you're missing them, there is a way to optimize them and expand them and have multiple. Okay. So the next step is the Google Business View, which is what I just mentioned earlier about being accredited by Google to do all their upgrades for Street View. So most people will see what the car takes as they drive past their business. Unbeknownst to them, most people are unaware that you can actually do an upgrade where you can actually do a virtual walkthrough inside and experience what the inside of a business looks like. There's two main reasons why we do this. The first one is obviously for the aesthetics. People get an idea of what they're coming into or what they're going to book if they're using it as a venue, for example, in this particular case. But unbeknownst to most people, having this sitting on your Google business profile ranks you 12 times faster on Google compared to your competitors. How that works, every one of those little arrows that you're seeing there is a 360 photo. A 360 photo, to create that 360 photo, takes 12 photos in one. So you need 12 photos to create the image, the sphere. So when you click on that, instead of getting one click, my apologies, for every touch of something on your Google profile, this allows you to get 12 instead of one. So for example, if I take a step back, if someone hits your call button or someone hits the directions to find your business, anything they touch, normally one touch of something equates to one click, one organic click. So if you're looking for a plumber in your area and you go plumber near me and you see a whole series of plumbers, if you're wondering how they get first, second, third in their ranking, it all comes about because every time you touch something on Google, one touch is one click. So if the one at the very top organically has got 200 clicks, the second one's probably got 150, and so on and so forth. The one with the most is ranking the highest. This here works differently because every time you touch one of these arrows, one touch equates to 12 clicks, not one. So walking through, that equivalently ranks you 12 times faster. When we do these, we also put them together with a mini business commercial. Hopefully, this isn't too loud. But yeah, basically, it comes down from Google Earth, and then it's just a way to be able to promote it, and then get people going out and looking at it. Because, like I said, people are sticky beaks. They like to have a look, but unbeknownst to them, they're ranking you 12 times faster when they go out and do this.
This is really like I'm just looking at this. This is so relevant for anybody who's a venue or is working for or with a venue, especially where things really matter in terms of what the venue looks or feels like. And it's like, you know, like for example, how you were talking about a plumber earlier, it's, you probably won't necessarily walk into a plumber's shop. But if we're talking a pub, a restaurant, a winery, anything where what the experience indoors feels like, that is unbelievably important. It's also like, it can also be used. Actually, here's a question. Can this be doing an outdoor premises?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. And I can stop. Sure. When we finish this, if you like, just remind me. I can show you where we've done a winery. Well, not so much a winery, but down at Darrenburg, the Cube, we've done a shot with a drone that started outside, and that can be put onto Google Maps as well. But yeah,
cool.
absolutely, it can be done outside. Even with like you mentioned, plumbers and not necessarily needing it, there's a lot of businesses that have just small offices, or we've done it inside, vehicles that are transported between, to showcase, things, and we've done it inside them.
Fun.
It doesn't really matter where it is. Like a builder could use it for a display home, for example, and then still attach it. So it could be used for just about anything. And for everybody on the call, I guess, just so you're aware, we're the only accredited agency that has that accreditation by Google within South Australia to do that. And don't despair if you're not from around here, as in you're not local to Adelaide. That's no problem at all. We'll travel and get this stuff sorted out. It's not a big deal.
Yeah,
So,
most people here on this call today will be regional South Australia.
mhm.
So and also if anybody wants to, move like, look into what this looks like, get in touch with us. We work with Ralph and we can help you out with the whole process.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. So, one of the things that we'll kind of move on to now is the reviews, Google reviews, and how important those are to ranking. Because everything I've just touched on is important. It all contributes towards ranking. However, this is a key one. So, Google, when it comes to reviews, are still looking at them with great importance, and so, for your information, here's the three things that Google look for that would assist you in ranking when it comes to your Google reviews. So the first one is the number of reviews. So when you hit 50 reviews, and that average of your ranking is greater than 4.1 out of 5 stars, that's your first key thing you're looking to do. So once you've hit 50, then the next sort of KPI you want to set yourself or target is 100 reviews, and then 150. So blocks of 50. So that's always really important as a first one. The second one is the average. 4.1 is the bare minimum that you want to be at. If you're lower than 4.1, then you'll be D-ranked rather than it helping you rank. I touch on this a lot. The reason 4.1 is a number is that 4.1 to 4.5 is considered good by Google, and then 4.6 to 5 is considered excellent. So obviously you want to try and keep it over 4.6, because then you'll be in the excellent range. But even at 4.1, you will still rank. I get a lot of business owners that, often, get really upset and emotional about getting a bad review. I get it. I would get emotional too if I got a bad one. But what you got to focus on is the fact that people are entitled to their opinions. Regardless, you need to respond to it. And that's the third thing, the engagement. But you need to understand something before I touch on engagement, and that is that people don't actually care about the review. People looking at reviews are more interested in how does the owner or the business owner of that business respond to those reviews. So The third thing which Google want to see is that
Sorry,
engagement. Now,
Ralph. Sorry,
yes,
can I just pause you for a moment?
of course.
We're just seeing your screen that only shows the QR codes. So that's, I don't know if
Yeah,
something is stuck at your end. Is that what we were staying
yeah,
with?
that's yeah,
Okay,
that's
great.
just
I just wasn't sure if you were showing some examples that we haven't seen. An
no, no.
interesting thing, I just wanted to add to what you were saying about the reviews.
Hmm.
So we make a lot of decisions every single day based purely on reviews. And we've been doing this for years because we buy a lot of software and solutions for our clients. Um, Usually finding the reviews, like we usually look for reviews that are negative. That's the first thing because I want to know if things, every single business has grumpy clients. It has things where they don't go according to plan. Finding the negative reviews allows us, first of all, to understand what is the business culture and how is the business responding to that negative feedback. Also, what kind of negative reviews are they? If you're seeing for, 10 years worth of reviews, maybe this is exaggeration, say 2 years worth of reviews that are negative and they're all about exactly the same thing, you're going, oh, hello, these people are having a problem, but they're not fixing the problem.
Yep.
So responding to these negative reviews is absolutely crucial to demonstrate that you listen, that you care, that you pay attention, that you engage, even with most disgruntled people. So I highly recommend to always respond to all reviews, but especially the negative ones, and respond to them with absolute grace and kindness and engagement. It's like, look, reach out, we'll see how we can fix this for you, we can address it or perhaps provide context, but just like, like a real life communication.
Yeah, and I couldn't have said it better myself. And everything you said is so true. Really, if you're responding in a negative manner, it kind of justifies to other people that that was probably a true negative review. So I know I tell people, look, take the emotion out of it and really respond where you're just trying to take it offline. The thing about Google too is that even though a lot of people dislike the review portion of Google and it's not something you can switch off, unlike Facebook, when you get a bad review on Facebook, for example, there can be a thread that's created, so it goes back and forth, and I tend to find that it gets uglier and uglier as it goes along. With Google, they can leave a review, and then you can respond, and that's where it stops. So you never want to ask them a question because they can't respond anyway. But as Gidry alluded to, you'd want to take the conversation offline by offering support or the opportunity to try and correct whatever they feel they've been grieved by, and just really just be professional about it. So I do touch on Google the reviews a lot. It's really important that people understand how important these are to your ranking. And the worst thing about it, which I kind of feel is a bit tough when it comes to Google, is that if the minimum is 4.1 and you're getting 4-star reviews, then that's actually dropping your average. You really have to go out and ask for the 5-star reviews because if you get a four and you get a four and then you get a five, your average is going to be 4.5. That keeps happening. You're going to drop below that 4.1. So it's really important that when you go out and ask for those reviews, you're very fixated on asking for a 5-star review. Is there anything else on that one, Gidri? Or?
No, no, let's go. Look, I feel like yeah, this is something I think it's so underrated, the impact of reviews, and I'm really appreciating having you covering this. So let's keep going.
Yeah, for sure. And again, if anyone's unsure of anything, I'm pretty sure you'll have access to this to watch it back as well, and understand it and review it. But it is really important to have it. The reason I share this particular screen, we've designed QR codes that people can scan, make it fun. Some people give incentives to leave reviews, whatever works. But we also have an NFC card which you can tap, so it's like almost like an electronic business card. See if I can actually get one out. Hold on. It might be a bit hard to see on the screen, but they're just a little, almost like a credit card, and you can tap them, and then you basically can get reviews like that. So it doesn't have to be a piece of paper like this with a QR code. It can be anything. It's we try to get people as many tools as possible to make it easy, so we take away the excuses, right?
Yeah.
So
A simple way to do for anybody who's running a business, and it's, if you don't necessarily know how to do a QR code, is when you are in your Google business, you can click a button, get more reviews, something like that,
Yep.
and it will
Correct.
give you a link, and then you can pop that link into your email signature and just say, "We'd love if you give us, a positive review and 5 stars." Be very clear with instructions, but you can just add that into all your email signatures. We
Yeah.
don't do it. We really should do it ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's
Look,
like it's a very simple way.
it works. That way works, but I find sometimes people read the emails and they don't really pay a lot of attention down sort of at that auto signature part.
Yeah, fair
Um,
enough.
there's nothing wrong with it. Anywhere, any opportunity is a good opportunity, right? I just find doing something like this when you've got them in your face creates two things. It gets you the reviews and you're more likely to get them, but you're less likely to get a crappy review because they're in front of you. So they're more likely to give you that 5 star. I'm very strategic, Adrian.
Yeah,
So,
fair enough.
but the link works. Don't get me wrong. I've even had people that will send it out, a day or two after they've, like for example, a conveyancer once a property's settled, they'll send it out and they'll say, we're happy, congratulations on your home or whatever, and then would you leave us a review? And then they leave that link that you mentioned. There's a myriad of ways to do this. The whole point is, and why we banging on about it for a bit here, is because you have to get them to rank on Google against your competitors. Okay, so then we get to social media, and only then should we be focusing on social media. I think a lot of people, we get into business, and quite often what happens is we tend to focus on things like social media pages and all the different platforms. We focus on websites and web development, and all this stuff is super important. But just for a moment, I want everyone to think what they would do right now if they wanted to find a plumber and you don't know one. You wouldn't go to Instagram to look one up. And unless you know the business name, you wouldn't be searching for a website. What would normally happen in probably 99% of the time, you would go to Google, you type plumber near me or plumber in Clare or whatever it is, and then a series of plumbers come up. Based on what Gidry and I were just saying, they may look at reviews, they may look at some information on that Google profile, which is everything we just went through. And then only then would they be warm enough to go, right, now we want to reach out. So we might look to the website, or we might look at their social media pages, and then kind of that's the second step. So in business, I teach this a lot. You've got your cold market and you've got your warm market. People that know Google are using Google are generally a cold market, but also you're warm, and I'll explain why in a minute. But the only people that use social media pages and websites are people that know who you are. So until they know who you are, they're not going to find you that way. When I say to you, Google is really one market, not, sorry, two markets, not one, like these other two platforms, is that Google is allowing people to find you when they're looking for you, but also people that know who you are don't even tend to save your number. So if they're looking for the local plumber and they've used you once and they're really happy with you, and then they need you again for something else a couple of months down the track, they won't save the number. They tend to just go back and then Google ABC plumbers, and then they'll just hit the call button. So that's why it's so important that and critical that your Google stuff is set up. Social media is important, very important. It's an engagement tool. It helps people to be reminded of your business ongoing. And when you run specials and things like that, they may then be enticed to come along. I don't believe it's a tool necessarily to draw in new business. It can, but on the primary sort of analytical side of it, I would believe it's more of an engagement tool than it is drawing in new business. But still very important, that you keep to branding and colors, as you can see through here. I don't know if you want to touch on that, Gidju, at all, anything to do with the branding and as in how important that is to a business, because I know that's kind of your realm too.
Yeah, yeah. Look, the way when we talk about the social media content, there's a couple of ways how you can, and I'll touch on this only super briefly. People who see your content, your actual individual post in their feed, they are reasonably hard to get to. Usually paid content performs a lot better. However, if you somehow manage to get your organic content in front of the eyes, it will be mixed amongst a lot of other sources, so a lot of other posts, reels and things like that. Video content also does a lot better than just static content, by the way. So At that one point, for that one single post, you want to have very clear message. Why should somebody spend any time on what they're looking at? Why should that be interesting in? Why they should be interested in that? However, when they come to the point of like looking at these two screens that you have just here, Ralph, like with like the full feed, these are the people that are looking for further evidence
Mm.
of following like down that path. It's like I saw a post, it's interesting. Okay, I'll see what else is this person or business talking about. At that point, this is where your branding really becomes incredibly impactful. And these two things, they feed each other. It's not just one. So you don't have to have a perfect branding to make this work. Sometimes really chaotic branding can still work, but above everything, have a brand
Mm.
and make sure that that brand is there, that you're communicating that clearly, that you have some consistency. So that if somebody's scrolling super fast, or just, scrolling is becoming more and more mindless these days, um,
100%.
that they can catch a glimpse and recognize something that they may have seen before. It's such a multifaceted approach. But it's just like if you're looking like everybody else, you might start being like anybody else as well. So, in the context of AI, and this is something interesting, what Jared said last week on social media session about using AI for social content. AI is really making it much easier to look good for somebody who really doesn't think about what the good really looks like. So like those AI generated flyers, all
Mm.
of them, they were great for 3 minutes, and after that, everybody looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
So moving forward with social media, authenticity is the key, brand consistency is the key, and really, you don't have to be perfect. It's better to be a little bit more rough around the edges, maybe not perfect sound, maybe not perfectly refined and filtered through images, but be yourself. So I think these are like the key things that I would say are most applicable to, small to medium businesses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, all that stuff is 100% spot on. I wanted to run through a quick strategy for people too, just to give you guys a bit of a cheat on when you're creating content, not so much the actual imagery per se, but more the caption. Um, One of the things that are happening, I tend to find most recently, is that the people have picked up the whole idea, like we always talk about, be consistent and also add value. People have taken the consistent and they've started to post, but they're posting a lot of rubbish or stuff that isn't meaningful, like you mentioned, Gidri. And I think that's really important that we touch on that today. So if anyone's on this call interested in understanding how to structure a caption for social media, I'm happy to quickly run through that with you. So for starters, there's three things here to pay attention to. The first thing that you want to do when you're talking about any form of content is have a hook, something that hooks people in within literally seconds, because people are scrolling, as Idria mentioned, it's becoming mindless, not people are thinking. So you need something that really draws their attention quite immediately. So a hook is really important, whether it's when you're talking about video content and you're saying something, or when you're writing it in a caption for a static image, like you're seeing on these pages here. After a hook, really, you don't want to be selling anything. You want to educate. I talk about this a lot. If you look at the Disrupt page, for example, most of the information we have on there is never selling. It's all about educating people about how they can improve and cheat through their way, and just being helpful tips and tricks, really. So the middle portion of it is more about education. And the final thing that I talk about, and I say this a lot, I really need everyone to pay attention, is not a call to action, but a call to benefit. Now, people go, well, what's the difference? Well, a call to action tells you what to do. A call to benefit inspires you to do something. So, using Disrupt as an example, we don't tell people follow us, because people will be like, well, why the hell should I? Right? But what we say is don't miss out on tips and tricks. Now, if you don't follow us, you're going to miss those tips and tricks, aren't you? So it's telling somebody to do something without telling them. Does that make sense? So always close out with a call to benefit rather than a call to action. So yeah, that's kind of that one in a nutshell. Hopefully that's been helpful. In relation to the next step,
Um,
and oh, sorry.
sorry, Ralph, just a really quick one.
Yes.
Um, this is just for the participants. if you're struggling to figure out the hooks, if you're struggling to figure out the order, like like here are your three things, to do. You say like your hook, your education, your benefit. If you're struggling to figure out what the hook would look like, because it's sometimes it can be, you also overthink your own business and you know everything. It not always is clear to go, well, what is interesting and what really entices people. You can, we're going to be having an online session of building your own content helper with AI tools, and that will help you to write one, like to write those hooks, to create them, or just give you a bit of inspiration about what they would look like. So this will be coming up, I think late September, one of these sessions. And then like at least you get a starting point, and then you can rework them yourself or work with that however you like.
Mate, I love that you're jumping in with this stuff because it's so important. ChatGPT, Claude, all of these tools are tools. Again, they're not something that you should rely on at the end. Like you
Absolutely.
shouldn't copy paste it, but they really do help with strategy like this. When you're asking the right questions and the right prompts, you will be able to utilize these tools and actually save yourself some money.
Yeah.
And
And
I
it
don't
just helps you
do.
to think through it. Like, you go like, oh, I want to do this. I want to talk about, I don't know, the new product, but I'm not sure, not sure how to actually even start. So you can just use like a good AI tool. It needs to be well organized. It needs to be well trained. But like you can just go, I'm struggling to figure out where to start. So here's the thing. Can you give me some suggestions of how to approach this?
You're talking about me giving you suggestions?
No, no, no. I'm just saying, like, when you talk to your AI
Oh
tool, you can
yeah,
do
yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah. So
absolutely.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, I think like a lot of people, on one hand, do use that, but also they don't, especially those who only just dabbling with AI, starting now. And I find a lot of small businesses are just now starting to take it on. If you train your AI tool well, it can help you to figure out all these hooks as suggestions, and then you can take it to back to human verse and work with that there.
And the more that you talk to it back and forth, it starts to learn what you do and don't like as well. So it does help because
Mm,
it's smart enough to kind of say, well, okay, I know that you used this kind of caption last time, and I need to create something along the similar lines once you're happy with it. So a lot of people sort of take the content and they go and put it into like they go and put it somewhere else. They do some more editing of it and then they just post it. I'd encourage you to once you've agreed with yourself on what your final caption should be, you throw it into chat or Claude again, and you just say to it, here's the one that I'm actually going to go with. This is the final one. So that, and then just say, learn it and, give me more like this in the future. At least then it allows the LLM or large learning model to understand that this is the type of content or caption that you want to write. And it's learned behavior. That's what it's all about.
yeah.
Gidry, someone, I think Nicole has asked the question. I've just popped that up while we were talking. If your business is a short-term rental accommodation, strata or a holiday home, most commonly referred to as Airbnb, do you take advantage of some of the Google tools? Absolutely is the answer to that. I've had a couple of people that have done their virtual walkthroughs for Airbnbs. Yeah, so definitely easy to do. But I'm not quite sure what you mean here. Google does not allow strata properties to have a Google business map listing. Not necessarily. No, there's a lot of Airbnbs that use the Google business profile. And quite often, if you can get people to book from Google Business through to your website, you can save I think it's like 30 or 40% that most people end up having to pay to Airbnb, um, which is a large chunk of money that you're losing when they could book direct. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely worth having a chat, Nicole, because I think it's something that can be done. I personally don't recall what Google Places was, but maybe you can give us some more detail about that and we can help you through that. But hopefully that answers your question.
That's really interesting. Like we haven't noticed it. So I have a small B&B that I run here in Clare, and we use that as our test bunny for just about everything. And I think it's working all right. So it probably depends a little bit on how it may be set up, because like we're definitely coming up on Google.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. There you go. And you're a live example. I haven't used it, but I've done it for people, so it's worked. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Happy to chat, Nicole. We can see how, if there's any problems, then, Ralph and I, we can figure out what could be happening there. So
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And look, I'm happy for people to contact me, but I'd prefer that you guys do contact with Gidry first. So, if there's any questions you have, just put them through to her. Um, so Leah's coming with a question as well. I have a business that has an old Google profile attached to it. I've claimed the profile, but I can't work out how to delete it. Is it possible? Yes, it is. Absolutely, it is. Um, there is a way to do it, and often you need access to the one that was created, but it can be done. Absolutely, Leah. Thanks for getting on too.
The hard one is like when here's one of the things that I will like from business strategy perspective would like to bring in. When you're setting up the Google business property, especially if you have a friend or a relative or a team member who's doing that on your behalf, make sure that you know to whose email it is tied and that you have the control of that email or access to that. Because the number of times that we have our clients come to us and they go, oh, we need to make these updates, we need to change all of this, but we have no access to this because it was set up by a team member who left not on good terms and they're refusing to hand over the property back to us. So it becomes an absolute chaos.
Yep.
And it's really hard to deal with that. I don't know, actually, Ralph, do you have any strategies for that kind of situation?
That's the biggest grievance that I have with Leah's question is that often someone else has created the Google business profile under a different email that maybe the business owner doesn't have access to. You've got to remember that just like the business is yours, your Google business profile, any social media platform, you have access and primarily as an owner in most of the time. So Google Business Profile, you've got two permissions on it. You've got it as a manager, which is anyone else, even ourselves as accredited agents. We put ourselves on as a manager, and then the owner of the business has an owner option to put themselves as an owner. No one ever should be the owner of a business except for the email, like Idri mentioned, that actually has access or that the owner has access to. So that's where we find a lot of challenges that can go back and forth and take, sometimes I tell people when we fix these things, it could take 3 days, it could take 3 months. It really is
Yeah.
that long. I'm pretty good and I'm accredited, but I'm not a miracle maker, unfortunately. So, some of this stuff, it becomes people get quite impatient with it, but they've also left it for many years and not done anything about it. The one other thing I want to note about what Leah asked as well, which is important, is when you've got a duplicate listing, Google profile, two that are similar, they start to clash with each other from an SEO perspective. And so then you're actually not ranking either of them because they don't know which one to rank. So it is better to clear them and make sure that you only have one that's relevant to your business. It's so important. If you've got multiple businesses, that's great. But when you've got duplicates, it is a big problem with ranking anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to move on to websites. I'm only going to touch on this once. Again, this is the reason I put this in here was more to explain the branding aspect and making things visibly appealing to, visually appealing to people that engage, with that and want to get more information. Like I use the florist as an example a lot here. With Google, yes, if I need to buy some flowers for my partner, I'll go out looking on Google, what's the nearest florist or whatever. When I've found one, if I want to see their work, I'm going to either go to their website or I'm going to go to their social media pages and look at some of the bouquets and floral arrangements or whatever. Um, but then if I want to order and I want to get it delivered, I'm going to likely go to the website. So, like I said earlier, even though these are warm market tools, they're super important regardless for engagement and things like I just mentioned, where you're ordering flowers, you're going to order it online through their website. So making sure it's visually appealing, but it also works structurally and makes it very easy to funnel people through is super important. So keep that in mind when it comes to, website design, development. I did briefly obviously touch a couple of times today on SEO. And I want people to understand that's a very important part of what we do because SEO traditionally was only something that you did on a website. But SEO now is written into the captions of your content, into the bios on your social media platforms. and also on your Google business profile. There's everything, every piece of content that's written has to have that in mind. What AIO or GEO, depending on what people have heard, is the same thing, but also for those large learning models like ChatGPT and Claude and things. So why that's important is that you have the ability now to optimize so that your business is being found on those platforms. So we that's what we're involved with SEMrush for as their partners. And just recently, just to give you an idea, we signed on Apple in Qatar and in Kuwait just to do that stuff for them. It's a very, very powerful tool. And I guess the reason I'm sharing that is because if you're going to do SEO, again, very important. 88% of people start their journey there, but there is a tendency for people to start looking on these other things for what they need, services or whatever. So make sure that everything you're doing is with all this stuff in mind, because that's the direction that business is going in now. Google Ads, just to touch on that briefly, it's not something that I recommend people do immediately. If they're not doing their organic stuff well, then I wouldn't encourage them going out and paying for Google Ads. It's just one of those things. Again, I speak a lot about this, and people are like, why is this guy trying to do himself out of business? Because I don't do this business to take people's money. I do it to genuinely get them results. You got to ask yourself this, what is the percentage of people looking at an ad? Most people that I ask the question of, what do you do when you Google plumbers and you see there's a couple of sponsored ones there? Most people tend to scroll past them because they know they're paying to be there, and then they go down to the organic list of searches. What I say to people is the actual numbers for your information is 10 to 15% of people will click on those sponsored ads. So that's 1 in 10. The important analytic to pay attention to though is that how many people search for businesses on page one of Google, and that's 70%. So in my mind, if you work on your organic, information and making sure that you're ranking organically where you're not having to pay, that's where the largest chunk of people trying to find you is, and that's on page one of Google. So when 70% are there, I try to tend to focus on getting people at least being seen on that, because most people will scroll past the ads. There's only two people that scroll that click on ads, just so you know, the lazy and the ones that need something urgent. Now, the first one might be funny, but it kind of is true. If someone's like, whatever, I just couldn't be bothered scrolling, they click on them. But the ones that do it because it's urgent, and I like to use this as an example, again, using the plumber. A plumber's probably not a bad example of someone that can run ads, because if someone pops a gas hose, or they're digging and they break the water hose and then water's going everywhere, they're not going to sit there and go, I wonder who's got good and bad reviews. They need a plumber like yesterday, right? So they're going to be, getting in there, taking someone from the very top and then just getting them to come in. This is obviously on the proviso they don't know anybody. In that industry. But the point is that that's the type of people that are clicking on ads. So you've got to ask yourself as a business, am I urgent? Is it something that's really important that someone would click on us? Or if it isn't, or you're running like a campaign where, it's leading up to Christmas and you want to really push some product or services that you're offering, absolutely. But is it the be all and end all? I don't believe so. In my opinion, being involved in what we do for a very long period of time, organic outweighs, analytics well and truly over paid advertising. So any
I have a
questions on that?
question.
Yeah.
I have a question. So, one of the things that everybody's seeing, yes, there's a first page of Google, but the AI summary is becoming more and more, it's taking over everything.
Yep.
For tiny businesses, for businesses where there's one person or like a really small team, regardless of how long they've been around for, do you have any suggestions how to become more visible for these AI search or AI summaries?
It's a lot like your SEO, and just for the record, it still utilizes a lot of directories, as in the AI bots and stuff are using the directories like Google, like Yellow Pages Online, like Bing, like your website. So, which is why AIO is great, but it's also leveraging the SEO. So, if you do the SEO well, it'll help you there. The other thing is your reviews. Again, that would help you because it's basically looking for, who's getting those great reviews on Google. They're going to take that and highlight it. If anyone's got the ChatGPT app on their phone, you're welcome to type this in right now, literally, because we started this in Kuwait in our office over there and our partnership. But if you typed in best marketing agency Kuwait, Kuwait, you'll actually see that we're actually number one. So we were testing it there, making sure that it was working, but there's a lot of work. And because we're talking organic too, Giedry, often it can take 6, 9, 12 months for things to start happening. But I always use the analogy of SEO and AIO versus Google Ads. I use the analogy of a sports car, like a Ferrari and a steam train, right? So what happens when you get in a Ferrari and you put your foot down? It's instant gratification. You get lots of speed very quickly, and then if you hit the brakes, you also come to a standstill very quickly. In my view, Google Ads is much the same. You get that instant gratification of ranking at the very top, but then as soon as you run out of ad spend, you literally it's like taking, a parachute and jumping out of a plane. You literally just free fall, right? So you can get great results immediately, but you also, once your ad spend goes, you just disappear. With SEO or AIO, it takes a lot longer, just like a steam train, to start developing that speed and building up momentum. But then you see it in the movies all the time. A car goes across, gets stuck on the train tracks, and then there's no way that that train's going to stop in time before it hits that car. That's how it works as well for a website and SEO and all these things that we've been talking about. SEO really takes a lot of momentum to build, but once it's underway, it's almost impossible to stop. You've got to do things to keep it consistent, but all of this stuff takes time. So it's not an overnight success. It is a very long-term game, and it's about being consistent and making sure that you're continuing to highlight um, anything in your business. So to give you I guess a tip or a trick from how we go about writing blogger articles that go onto websites, make sure that you're writing a question and then answering that question. That there, and I think it tends to be, I'm fairly certain of this, it's about 300 words minimum, your blog article. And someone asked me yesterday, how often should we be doing them? About once a fortnight would be beautiful if you could do that, but even once a month should be enough. That's kind of creating that consistency and then just giving it time. But you always, let's say, for example, if it was my business and I was talking about Google, the question I could write would be, how important is having a Google business profile? And then I would answer that question in the blog article, and then that would get posted onto our what we call think tank on our website, which is where the blogs go, basically. Does that help, Gidru?
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, we're kind of starting to approach the end of the session. We still have about 10 minutes to go. Would love to get a few more questions if anybody has anything to ask. Actually, in the meantime, while we're waiting for some questions, I have a question in terms of answering engine optimization. Is there any reliable tools to measure what content does well in AI answering summaries, the way we measure in Google Analytics? Is there any way to perceive it other than that AI summary sent to your website?
There is, but you're talking about like having either a subscription directly with SEMrush
Okay.
or using a partner like us. And I'm not going to lie, that sort of stuff is quite expensive.
Yeah.
But I mean, like anything, eventually I'm sure there'll be tools and stuff that you can have, just like you have access to your own Google profile, analytics and performance reports and
Yeah.
things like that. But yes, the answer is yes, but it's also there's a cost
Yeah.
attached to that.
So
Yeah,
it's not everyday people kind of thing.
I don't believe so, not at this stage. But doing the work and just going about, being consistent, I think is your best friend, really, and it'll come. You just got to be patient, I guess. I noticed there was another question actually that came through too, Gidri.
No,
Um,
that was just Leah, I think, adding a little bit more information about her double
yeah,
Google
yeah,
piece.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Okay. We'll touch on that together, Leah, anyway, because we're doing that stuff through the Adelaide Business Hub with Leah. So, yep.
Yeah. All right, great. And look, I was also curious. So going back to your Google business listings, when there are images, and this is something, given that a lot of our session participants are small businesses
Mhm.
with often tight budgets, it's really useful to understand the value of the things that we can do for free with like just and do it ourselves within the business. Um, when there are photos associated with the listing, is there different value of those photos depending on where they're coming from, the from like a service users, from your clients or customers, or versus doing them yourself?
Yeah, well, it doesn't change the value, but from a ranking point of view, it's all helpful. But it's not so helpful when you're a pub or a club or whatever, and or a restaurant. And quite often, everyone thinks they're a food photographer, unfortunately, and you'll get, the dish plated up, it'll look amazing. The business then takes it and places it on the table. Someone will eat half of it, then take a photo of it, and then put it on their Google profile. Looks terrible. So I tell people all the time, you can't control that. However, what you can do is make sure you're in control of what you're posting. So if you're frequently posting good imagery of your meals or your venue or your business, whatever it is, even your team, I tell people a lot, people buy people before they buy into your business. So having good photos and images of you, you and your team, or even if it's just yourself, like Guidry notices I go to a lot of networking events, which is true. I take a lot of, photos just with other people at those events, and then I just post them onto my Google business profile because people want to see other happy people and want to work with people that they feel they can relate to. And you're trying to warm up a cold lead that comes in and meets you at your business, and you want to make sure that people are actually, building rapport with you instantly if they can. Really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, we have a question from Cindy here,
Mhm.
saying when you were t talking about the shots inside the business, you mentioned 12 shots. Do you have to do individual shots or will it work with a video of the premises? Hope that makes sense.
Great question, Cindy. Yeah, no, it definitely does. No, the Google Business Profile or Google Business View is a separate sort of entity to a still image or a photo that's just taken. They both help, but if someone's looking at a particular photo, in a minute I might stop sharing and I'll show you. Now they're actually giving you, they brought it back from years ago. I reckon about 7 years ago they stopped it, but you can actually see physically how many people have viewed individual photos, which is unreal because it shows you how powerful it is. Um, but
One of the things, though,
yeah.
this is and this is adding like, because I know a little bit more about Cindy. This is not something that you can do yourself. This is
Oh,
something
yeah.
that you need the partner, like somebody approved partner by Google to do this. So this is probably relevant, like, it's a very specific type of imagery.
Yeah, that's right. And no, you wouldn't be able to do that yourself. In relation to videos, though, I just want to touch on that because it's important for everyone to hear this. Google doesn't like video as much as they do static imagery, which is kind of weird. But the reason that they don't is because they own YouTube, and so for them, in their head, they're like, well, if you want to post anything video content, go and post it on YouTube. So if you're posting sort of videos on your social media platform, you shouldn't really copy paste them into Google. They don't it doesn't like it as much. Just the static side of what you post on your socials is what should be going on to Google. And people, I may not have touched on it when we were going over it, but there is a section where you should be posting whatever's on your social media onto Google. Again, people are like, oh, really? I've got to go and, do all this stuff on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. Now you're asking me to do it on Google. Remember, 88% of people start their journey at Google. If there's anything that's more important than your social media platforms, it's actually your Google business profile. So hopefully that answers your question there, Cindy. I'll just quickly go through this. It's nothing. There's only just a couple of slides to connect, but like I said, I prefer people just to connect with Guidry anyway. In the first instance, seeing as you've come in through there, I'm just going to quickly share my screen and I'll just bring up disrupts. How about that? But you can actually see um, on the photo section how many people have actually viewed the photos now. So if I go photo
Oh,
section,
nice.
um, see here, it's got here less than 100 views. They're just starting now. Some businesses haven't started to show that, but I'll bring up another one because it looks like these ones aren't really doing fantastic. Give me a second. if it decides to work. Um, Let me bring up one that's here we go. If I just bring up one of the Anytime Fitnesses, for example, and we go to their photos, you can see that particular photo there. See that? It's been seen by nearly 11,000 people. Same as that. This one's 3,500 people, 15,000 people. The people tell me, oh, God, I don't really want to do that. But when your business is getting seen by 53,000 people, if you don't see the importance of doing this stuff, you probably should really, really reconsider whether your marketing, because this is a very powerful tool. Like that there, that one photo is seen by 35,000 people. Um, so sometimes people just want to see the equipment that you've got in a gym, for example, right? So
So for businesses that have physical premises that are not open to public, what kind of images they could be posting?
can you give me an example? What do you mean?
Like say, manufacturing. So we have like a few people here who have physical premises and they sell online, or they fill orders, but it's not like you can walk into a shop. But it's still probably important for them to know where they're operating from.
Yeah.
And they still could be like it's not necessarily just and that anybody can walk in.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, look, anything is important. Like I'll bring up what's the name of that pest control company? Hold on one sec. Lawless. Like Lawless Pest Control, they've just got an office, but most of the time they're on the road, right? So
Yeah,
we still did their virtual walkthrough, but we only did it up to and including the what do they call it? The office basically. So, we still start at Street View. And obviously they got a big kind of warehouse where they keep all their equipment, but then when we're doing their walkthrough, it stops at the actual office. So, all of this stuff is important, but you don't have to go into places that are not,
yeah,
that's P and C basically. So that's kind of where that stops. It doesn't go anywhere further than that. So,
yeah.
mm,
Cool.
that's that's about it.
Yeah,
Just briefly should touch on that thing that I mentioned as well. Bear with me. If I just go back to Disrupt. This tool here of having, your social media aspect, but on Google,
yeah,
clicking on this information, people have an opportunity to have a look at all your different information that you would have normally put on your social media, and then they can click learn more, and it will take them to where they need to go. So. Yeah, this stuff is all important. I don't just touch on it because we're talking about it. It's genuinely to my brain is more important than your social media platforms, honestly. Hmm.
yeah. This is really quite, it's a simple thing to do. You already have the content. You can share the content. You can just, it's not something that brand new that you need to come up with. You can just tweak what you already have that's going on social media, and that can just be shared on Google and adds to your findability, I guess. Like that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, look, so we're kind of wrapping up. We just clicked 1 hour, so we know that everybody has businesses to run, so won't hold folks too much longer. But sign up for one-on-one sessions if you haven't done so. If you have any specific questions or want to work on anything, just reach out to me. I'll get Ralph on board for anything that we can't help with, and there's quite a lot that where we collaborate. Also, there will be upcoming online sessions as well that specifically will be touching like how to build your little AI tool, how to train it to help you with all of these tasks, just to help you to manage the content better and have brand consistency and search words. So and we might have to do. I was going to say, with everybody who's joining the one-on-one with me, we're going to have to do an exchange of like a 5-star Google review so that we're all friends and we're helping each other. So not a very hard thing to do, and it's a simple thing. So thank you so much for your time, Ralph. Great to see you
No, no
again. I'll probably
problem
see you at some networking event, like what, a week from now
at
or
all.
so.
You know you will. You know you will.
I know, Will. I know, Will. That's how it works. So thank you, everybody. And this recording, we'll load that up online on Forging Guild website, and we'll send everyone an update when it's ready.
Amazing.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
everyone. Thank
All
you.
right. See you.
Bye now.
Bye bye.